Hey guys, what's going on? In today's video, we are going to be going over the deck that got me First Day Infinite in the newest season of Marvel Snap, and it highlights the newest card to the game that's not the Season Pass card. It's Red Hulk, and he is extremely strong, and I threw him right away into a Thanos list. I know everybody's hating on Thanos right now, but he's still extremely strong, and if you want to win games very quickly, climb very quickly, get an easy infinite, Thanos is still the route. He's still probably the best card in the game, and Red Hulk has only made the deck better. And to put into perspective how strong the Red Thanos list is, and how strong in general Thanos and Red Hulk are going to be, this deck in my climb over the past day was winning at 74.2% at the final tally, and at certain points obviously it was higher than that, and it's just, there's just too much power, and there's just not enough that an opponent can really do to counter and compete with you. It works especially well because of Baron Zemo is very prevalent in the meta right now, being the newest Season Pass card, but unfortunately for Baron Zemo and his archetype, Thanos counters it pretty well because he's got a ton of garbage in the lower cost cards, and you're not going to get milled out of your entire deck, and the Zemo aspect is not going to really work out the way it is trying to. And with that being said, we are going to get into the deck breakdown portion of the video, and as always, we're going to jump into the must-haves of the deck, then we'll get into the flex cards, and then later on we'll get into some of the high level and infinite gameplay breakdown for you guys. And without further ado, let us get into the Red Thanos list. And this being a Thanos list, it's kind of the same deal on a lot of the must-haves, so we'll be pretty quick about it, and we'll just start off with Thanos. He's clearly a must-have, obviously. He can pretty easily now get up to 620, so he is a potential play for you a lot of the times on turn 6 with the Power Stone. This list is pretty easy to get all your Infinity Stones out pretty consistently. And obviously the main reason of him being a must-have is all those Infinity Stones. They work extremely well in synergy with your Cull Obsidian, your Mockingbird, Hope Summers, and there's just a ton of stuff that the Infinity Stones open up. And honestly, the Mind Stone going to a 2/1 is a bit of a nerf, but it's really not that impactful, so it's still an extremely good card as long as you get it pretty early in the game. And moving on, Psylocke is a must-have. You could maybe put her borderline flex, but it's just nice to have a card that increases your mana for you that's just not Hope Summers. You can get out a 6-drop earlier on turn 5 if you've had a really clunky draw and play Psylocke on turn 4. It's just nice to have another card that is an option for you to ramp up and get some of your bigger options out, so that's why Psylocke's a must-have. And Hope Summers is a must-have. She's probably the best Season Pass card maybe since Miss Marvel that's been released, and she is obviously incredible in pretty much any deck list you throw her in, honestly, but in this list she works especially well in ramping you up and getting the power you need. You have all these Infinity Stones that are going to be easy for you to get out and help ramp up the power and play it on her. Then you're going to have movement options with a few of these stones, and the potential of you playing Vision in your list to clear up the lane and not clog it up. Hope Summers is incredibly good, and an auto include in a lot of decks, and especially in Thanos lists. And Cull Obsidian is another one of those cards that is always going to be an auto include in the Thanos base list, simply because of him needing the 1-drop to be played, and there's just a plethora of 1-drops in your deck list even without actually putting any in your deck because of the Infinity Stones. He's very nice to get out earlier and can help give you priority if you need for late game setups for your Goliath, or locking down a position that maybe is getting stormed or something like that. Cull Obsidian is very strong, one of the strongest 4-drops in the game, auto include in all Thanos lists. And moving on, Mockingbird is a newer card to the world of Marvel Snap, and she just is another card that fits perfectly into the Thanos archetype. None of the Infinity Stones are cards that technically start in your deck, so they all decrease the cost of Mockingbird. So you're very easily, a lot of the time, going to have a 3-cost Mockingbird on turn 3, and you're going to be able to get her out. And if your opponent's not playing Mobius, A lot of times you can wait later in the game and you're going to have a 0-cost Mockingbird and a 0-9-3-9 crazy stat line. She's extremely strong in this list. She'll help you get your priority for your Goliath, just help you win lanes that are getting locked down earlier, similar to Cole Obsidian. Just a very, very good card in Thanos-based lists. And next up in the must-have is going to be Blob, and he has seen ups and downs in his gameplay, but he's really found his sweet spot again back in the Thanos list. Especially in this list, you have a ton of high-powered cards, so he is going to get that 15 power every time, guaranteed with all those Infinity Stones, but obviously there's a high chance that he's going to be even more power, so he just fits in nicely, and he works well because you don't necessarily have to play him if you know what's in your deck and it's kind of thinned out. You have the new Red Hulk card out there that is usually going to be significantly larger than a 6'11" that it starts at, and he's going to be an option for you as well. So you have a good balance on a potential turn 6 gigantic card play with the Blob versus the Red Hulk in your list. So he's an auto include and just another card that loves Thanos and all his Infinity Stones. And I've put Goliath as a must-have in the Thanos-based list for a while at this point, and he still fits in that aspect for me. The stones are too good at giving you priority later in the game, so you're pretty much always going to be able to have the option to use your Goliath. And with all the ramp that you have potentially in this deck with your Hope Summers, your Psylocke, or even the cost reduction of a Time Stone, there's a chance you can get your Goliath out before turn 6 too if you need to. And your opponent obviously won't be expecting that, and it's going to win you games, and Goliath just is a dominant force that is going to be prevalent in Snap for a long time. And finally, the newest card into Marvel Snap, Red Hulk, is a must-have in this list, and honestly, he's probably one of the strongest 6-drops added to the game in recent memory, and he can really slot into a lot of decks at this point, and he's just going to have extreme value. It's really hard for anybody to be completely energy efficient every single turn, and he is going to gain power. Getting +4 power for somebody not spending energy is crazy. For example, if you had him in your opening hand and somehow your opponent didn't play the proper amount of power for all 6 turns, he could be a 635, which is an unbelievable stat line. But obviously the Thanos-based lists, you have a lot of ramp opportunity, and you can get your 6 drops out way quicker and easier, and he's just a more consistent 6 drop in terms of the amount of value you're going to get out of him. He's not like Giganto and lockdown to the left lane. If your Blob is not set up well with what's left on your deck, you can play the Red Hulk, and he's going to have great value. He's easily a 15 power pretty much every single game, and usually much more than that if we're being honest based on how I've played so far. And he's just so good and going to be very strong for the longest of time, I would imagine. And the good thing about the Thanos lists are there is a lot of opportunity for flex. There is a lot of core cards that you need, but you can really go from there in terms of like the higher cost cards you want to package into your list and kind of make it into your own thing. You can go a little more zoo, obviously, or you can be higher energy, higher power card dominant like this list is. So that's one thing that is enjoyable out of the Thanos list. You can kind of mix and match it a little bit to your own way. So really, all these cards I have listed in the flex option here are all truly up to you and what you're trying to build your list on. A lot of them I use because they help in the mirror matches a lot of the time, and some of them are just more the powerful cards I think work better in the archetype. And starting off in my flex options, I have Mobius. And I have Mobius simply because of the mirror matchups that you're going to run into to help you with the Mockingbird. And it works extremely well, obviously, from stopping the Mockingbird getting out. You need to recognize, though, if your opponent has gotten 2 Infinity Stones out before turn 3, probably not a good idea to play your Mobius on turn 3. You gotta just assume they have Mockingbird in their opening hand and they're going to get her out. And then there's no point playing the Mobius really in that list. And obviously he works extremely well against Loki-based lists, which do have a good tendency to counter the Thanos-based lists a little bit. So that's why I have him in most of my lists right now, and I put him in a flex option because you don't necessarily have to play him if you're not running into the mirror matches a lot or a lot of Loki. And I have Shang-Chi as my perennial flex card. He works extremely well in a ton of lists just to help counteract the power. And if you're falling behind earlier in the game and you haven't drawn as well in this list, it can be kind of clunky and slow in a lot of one-card plays. So Shang-Chi is strong in this list to help alleviate the pressure on your opponent's side of the board. And people still forget about Shang-Chi on turn 6, and you can steal cubes that way. So he's just a solid S tier card as always. And I mentioned Vision earlier when I was going over Hope Summers, but he is a flex card in my opinion in this list because he is great at helping you get to locations that you have issues getting to, and that is an issue in this deck list. You really only have 2 options to do that. If you have Vision, and then if you're going to be using the Space Stone to help move something around. So that's why I like to have Vision in this list. He does help you get to the locations that you can't get to, and you can stack him and load up a Hope Summers position and still have the ability to get back in there later and win it with more power from one of your larger 6 costs if you need to. And finally, I'll lump the 6 costs together in the flex cards. Like I said, this is a heavy based list in the Thanos archetype, so we want a lot of those strong 6 cost cards with a lot of power, so you can kind of flex in what you want. I have Scar as a flex card because there is a lot of opportunity for you to get out 10 powered cards earlier into the game, and he can see his cost reduction pretty easily, and you can get him out even earlier and win lanes that are going to be locked down, etc. I put him in the flex, and he's been falling out of my list a little bit more just because of the prevalence of Mobius, so obviously that impacts your Scar and he loses his value that way, but he's still very strong 6 costs that can get out pretty easily on turn 4, like with your Cull Obsidian getting out. You have a bunch of ramp to get other 6 costs out. There's even a lot of positions that can give your Mockingbird that 1 extra power that is going to get the Scar reduced as well, so he's pretty strong in that aspect. And finally, Magneto is more of the card I lean towards as my flexed 6 drop. He just has such a powerful on reveal effect, and you can get him out earlier too than turn 6 a lot of the times, and your opponent's not going to be expecting that, so you can clog up a lane and they won't be able to win it. Or if they have Wong down, for example, you can move that and screw it up. And obviously the 12 power is a pretty strong stat line as well, so it just works out extremely well. And Magneto is just an extremely strong 6 drop. That's pretty consistent. So guys, that was a quick overview and breakdown of the Red Thanos deck list, its must-haves, the flex options, a little breakdown of Red Hulk and how strong he's going to be in the meta. Before we get into the infinite and high-level gameplay, it's part of the video. I want to remind you guys, I really do appreciate everybody who's watching, but there's still over 95% of you who watch this channel that are not subscribed, so it would really help me out a ton if you could remember to hit that like button, subscribe. It would help out a ton. I appreciate it. But with that being said, let us get on over to the gameplay portion of the video. And first up here we have Galaxy. Right away, not playing a Thanos list. Time Theater, Cull Obsidian. It's actually not terrible. Just hopefully our draw gets a little better from here on. And he's playing a Hulk-based list. So we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and Reality Stone away the unrevealed location here. Avengers Compound is fine. And I'm just gonna throw down the Time Stone here into the White Palace. Set up some potential plays here. Not the greatest hitting the Soul Stone there, but also not terrible. I'm going to go ahead and throw a Cull Obsidian down into the White Palace here, and I'm going to throw a Soul Stone down in Avengers Compound because I know he'll be playing on it, and it'll get value. Hulk, Iron Man, so he is playing a Hell list, and he did not have Hell in his hand. So hopefully we get lucky here. He does not draw Hella. And I will play Cull Obsidian here, again on this location. And I'm not going to play Power Stone. I will hold off. Yeah, so he Morbius there. That's a very strong play for him. Looking for a good draw here. And that is not great. So we're just going to throw down Blob onto the Avengers compound because it's more likely trying to defend the Time Theater. And that's not going to be enough, and we're going to have enough, and 23 power is plenty to win, and that is a easy victory right there. And next up we have Dazter, and he's not playing a Thanos-based list. Luke's Bar, not terrible. We have plenty of options to potentially deal with it. Yondu, so he's probably playing a Baron Zemo based list, which is not going to favor well for him based on my deck list. Limbo is fine. I'm going to go ahead and pass on this turn as well, just in case I don't draw the Vision, and he just got rid of the Reality Stone, so I do want to, and that is unfortunate, but really still not the end of the world here. Go ahead and throw the pig down. He's snapping here. See what he's doing. He's just gonna keep Yondoing away all the stones, which is fine. We are Thanos list. We have a ton of stuff here. And we're just going to go ahead and throw down Mockingbird into the middle lane here. And if he wants to bounce back Spider-Ham and hit the Coal Obsidian, that's fine. We're just going to have a 4/10 we can play anywhere we want. And that is really unlucky. He hits a Mobius. He's been really getting rid of our deck, and still it's one of the non-larger cards left in there. Now it's getting interesting. I'll go ahead and Hope Summers here into the Washington DC lane. He's gonna hit the Magic into another Yondu, and I still do not care. And now I can play Magneto, pull this Magic over, and potentially clog up this lane. I think that's the better play here. Potentially has a 3 or 4 drop he's going to play himself. He's going to Doc Ock, and that's just not going to work out well for him. Thanos, Coal Obsidian, or Red Hulk. Okay. And even if he has a play right here, really not going to be enough in this Limbo lane. If he has the Shang-Chi, which I'm not entirely scared about. Play Blob here because I know it'll eat up my Vision and Goliath. And we'll just play Psylocke in the right lane. Baron Zemo, he's got nobody to eat. And Shang-Chi gets away everything, but he still doesn't have enough. That blob eating up the Vision is enough for our victory. And next up is Soul Vexor. Soulstone opening hand is fine. I'm not even too opposed to playing Soulstone into the Cloning Vats right now. It gives potential for the Mockingbird. Get her out easier. Quintar. It's fine as well, honestly. I do like getting this Soulstone out, and I will play the Reality Stone. It's going to get this Mockingbird pretty cheap early here. And Necrosha, not terrible, honestly. I don't care. He can steal as much of the Infinity Stones from my deck as he wants. I'm going to snap here. And there's not much he can do about it. I don't really care about the Power Stone getting eaten up here either, honestly. It's just gonna get this Mockingbird even further cost reduction here. Get her down for 1 mana is pretty nice. I think we're gonna do Hope Summer's Mockingbird into the Limbo lane here. It's a pretty strong play. And he's gonna Baron Zemo and take Time Stone, which is fine. And he stole our Space Stone, which is also fine. I just do not care. Now we have 6 mana here. We will go ahead and play Thanos onto the cloning vats, I think is probably the better play. Simply because I don't have another 6-drop in my hand at this moment. And it worked out because he was going to Doc Ock us anyways, and he hit our other Thanos, so he's now extremely far behind in that location as well. Coal Obsidian is a bit of a bummer of a draw there, unfortunately. So I'm going to just go ahead and play a Psylocke and Mobius in the middle lane here, kind of ramp it up a little bit. Sure, another Doc Ock, and he hits our other large card, so that doesn't matter. He got rid of our Shang-Chi, that also doesn't matter. We're going to draw the large card here probably, a Magneto, and he should not have enough to compete here. This just continues to prove how powerful this deck list is against the very prevalent Baron Zemo archetype that is in the game right now. So make sure you're taking advantage and you're climbing. You're going to be able to just win games against the Zemo decks almost an instant snap at this point, I would say. It's unlikely he's going to be able to do anything here. Yep, and he's out of there. Another easy victory. And next up we have Odin. He's not playing a Thanos list. Titan is very good for us in this deck list. And getting a Magneto there is pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and Time Stone here, as well as Space Stone to get the extra draw, I think. So he's playing a Baron Zemo base list. Hit the Hope Summers with the Time Stone is pretty nice, and we hit the Mockingbird for turn 3, which is extremely nice. That's not great, but we just drew Vision, so I'm going to snap here. And we'll just play Mockingbird, just in case he has Mobius or stole my Mobius. And look at that, there's Mobius, so that was a great play right there. And on this turn, I'm just going to go ahead and play Coal Obsidian onto Titan. Sets up my Vision on the next turn to get him over into the Sanctum Sanctorium. We're looking very good here. He goes ahead and Magics, which is really great against other decks, but it is not going to do enough against the Thanos-based list. Go ahead and play Vision down in Limbo. Don't really care. I'm just going to get ready to move it to Sanctum next turn. Sure, you can Doc Ock here. Really doesn't matter. And we're going to pull over the Mobius. Yeah, this game is over. I'll go ahead and move Vision over. And lost connection to our game. Oh, and of course he's out of there. He knows that he's lost. Another easy victory. And finally we got Evil Ted. I'm gonna go ahead and assume he's playing a Baron Zemo based list as well. It seems to be what everybody is playing right now. And he is, in fact, is. I know he has Doc Ock in his hand, so I can kind of play around that. Ooh, a Hawkeye-based Zemo list. I haven't seen that yet. That's interesting. Our hand is extremely bad, though, so this could be unfortunate. I don't really care what he cables here, honestly. It does not matter. He's cabled my Red Hulk, okay? And that is another bad draw, but we'll just get our Mobius out here and deal with it as we can. He's going to Gladiator. It's likely going to be a stone because I haven't drawn any of those yet. Yep, not the end of the world. And we don't have any play here besides Shang-Chi, and I am just going to pass because it's not worth playing Shang-Chi. I know he has Doc Ock in his hand, so there's a high likelihood Doc Ock is coming out. And that works out well for us. Assume the Doc Ock is coming soon. So I would prefer to get Mockingbird down and give myself potential priority, and there's a chance maybe he doesn't pull Goliath with Doc Ock. And he's not going to play Doc Ock this turn. He's going to limbo out a later turn. Okay, gets rid of that stone, which I don't care. And we have priority here. And I could get a little greedy here and kind of assume he's going to go with a cloning bats play here with that gigantic Red Hulk, but I'm just going to go ahead and move over Magneto and lock down the White Palace. And the Gladiator moves over there, which he's lost that. Sure, Doc Ock here. Hope Summers into my own Doc Ock. Let's see what it brings out. A Gladiator, and unfortunately he hit my Goliath. And we have priority. And I know he has that gigantic Red Hulk, so we have lost the game. Unfortunate luck of the Doc Ock draw there. So he'll just run away. So guys, that was some high-level infinite gameplay of the Red Thanos deck list breakdown for you. If you like the deck, let me know how it's going for you. I'm going to have a Baron Zemo deck list coming out later this week as well. I use that to climb a little bit, getting up to infinite pretty quickly too. But until then, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.